Local news, national news, even feel-good news. Delivering the topics that are relevant to you.
That's why I listen to Joe. He covers it all.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
I kind of want to talk about the trash chute issue. But I know not a lot of people are going to relate to that. I just got a notice from my residents where they said that somebody stuck a computer tower, so like a whole PC, down the trash chute, and it has now blocked the trash chute between the second and third floors. So someone's got to climb up into the trash chute to free the computer. But Terry in our chat says, just drop a bowling ball. That'll fix that. You know, that really probably would. I mean, if you drop a nice 16-pound bowling ball, that would probably take care of that right away. Well, I'm so glad you're joining us here on this weird week. I say weird because, we had the holiday on a Tuesday, and Tuesday holidays are the worst. I love those 3-day weekends, but then having a 2-day weekend and then a day where you work and then a day where most people don't work, and you get the idea. All right, so we're going to start off. We got a couple of things here tonight. As always, we bring you a buffet of topics. And then you can chime in on whatever topic you choose, whatever topic tickles your fancy. We don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent. We only care that you are interested in having a discussion, of having a cordial discussion. We try not to scream and yell here on the Joe Kelley Show. Usually if there's screaming, it's me screaming at myself, and that's about it. Otherwise, we just don't encourage that kind of behavior here. But we welcome everybody, and we welcome all opinions here on the Joe Kelley Show. We'll start with this. Florida Republican Matt Gaetz, who's kind of a firebrand of his own, he wants to end cannabis testing for the U.S. military. He wants to amend the National Defense Authorization Act, and it would help address the growing issue of recruits that are testing positive for marijuana use in states where it is legal, especially. Nearly 33% more recruits tested positive in 2022 than in 2020. So do you support Matt Gaetz's decision, Matt Gaetz's amendment, to basically allow our U.S. military to smoke weed? Now, presumably, they wouldn't be able to smoke weed while they're on the job, right? Just like you can't drink alcohol while you're on the job, but you can go home and have a beer, when you get off your shift. So what do you think about Congressman Matt Gaetz wanting to end cannabis testing for the United States military? You can let us know right now at 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic and the WDBO app.
As far as the marijuana testing for enlisting into the military, they don't need to stop. They just need to be able to test when it was used, like alcohol. I don't care. Make all the drugs legal as long as you're not an idiot using it on the job. You need to be able to test how long ago it was you did it, how soon you did it, and at the same time, don't come to work on it. Plain and simple. 14 years in the Marine Corps. Don't be stupid. Follow the rules.
Hoorah! 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 Thank you for your service, sir. We appreciate that. Also, let me throw into the discussion here another topic. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is doubling down on the video that his campaign shared last week. That's not accurate. His campaign did not share this video. A third-party PAC called the DeSantis War Room shared the video, but Governor DeSantis retweeted it, which generally shows an endorsement of it in a situation like that. And he went on record saying that he fully endorses this commercial. Now, it's important to be able to see this commercial. I'm going to play the audio for you, but the audio doesn't do it justice. You really have to see the visuals in this video and just look for this story about DeSantis doubling down on an LGBTQ video, and you'll be able to see the video for yourself. But here is the audio track from the video that was put together. And again, this was released by the DeSantis War Room and not the DeSantis campaign.
I will do everything in my...
Let me set it up. I'm sorry. So in this ad, what they're trying to do is they're trying to say that Donald Trump is a big supporter of LGBTQ rights, and that Donald Trump is the one who really first embraced the LGBTQ community and that should set him apart from Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis has positioned himself quite strongly against the LGBTQ community, certainly in a lot of different ways, but Donald Trump, at least at one point, fully embraced the LGBTQ community. Here's the ad.
I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens.
If Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses.
That is correct.
In the future, can transgender women compete in Miss Universe?
Yes.
Make America great again.
This is where it gets weird. So this is where they flash a series of images, memes of Peaky Blinders, of the meme of the big muscular guy. I don't know what that meme is called, but it seems incredibly immature.
Anything more horrifying. It really has shut down drag.
Just produced some of the harshest, most draconian laws that literally threaten trans existence.
Congratulations, Ron DeSantis. Mission accomplished. You win.
I like the music, though. I like the beat. So it gets it. You really have to see it. You have to see it to fully understand it. And I don't know if everybody knows what 4chan is, and I don't know if everybody knows what a 13-year-old boy is, but 13-year-old boys populate 4chan, or people who have the intelligence of 13-year-old boys, or the maturity of 13-year-old boys. But 4chan is where a lot of the internet garbage generates out of. And I'll tell you, that spot looks like it came from 4chan. It's so low quality. It just seems low rent. It's weird. And I understand what DeSantis is trying to say. I mean, Donald Trump is on record talking about defending LGBTQ rights, and Ron DeSantis has been pretty clear with his feelings about LGBTQ community. Now, Ron DeSantis went on with Tommy Lehrer, and defended this commercial. So even though it didn't come directly from the DeSantis campaign, it came from a third-party DeSantis Political Action Committee, that is the DeSantis War Room. By law and by ethics, the candidates are not supposed to have any dialogue with the political action committees when it comes to commercials that come out. They're not allowed to coordinate on marketing campaigns. They're not allowed to coordinate on commercials. And so Ron DeSantis could have easily stepped up and said, yeah, look, I saw that ad from the DeSantis War Room. I think it was a little over the top. I think it was too much. But that's not what Ron DeSantis did. He went on with Tommy Lehrer, thank you, Lehrer. I don't understand how she has a TV show. It just blows my mind. That is an airheaded woman. Anyhow, here's Ron DeSantis defending that video.
I think, identifying Donald Trump as really being a pioneer in injecting gender ideology into the mainstream, where he was having men compete against women in his beauty pageants. I think that's totally fair game, because he's now campaigning saying the opposite, that he doesn't think that you should have men competing in women's things like athletics. And so we've been very clear on it, that we believe in protecting the rights of our girls and the rights of women, participate with fairness and with integrity. And ultimately, when you talk about some of the gender ideology that's being unleashed in this country, in the state of Florida, we are fighting back against that, clearly in schools. But I think even beyond that, it's just a fundamental issue of, what role? I think it's an attack on women's rights more broadly to say that gender is fluid. And I also think it's an attack on the truth itself. When they take a swimmer who swam on the men's team for 3 years and then switches to the women's team, and they say that's the women's swim national champion, we know not only does that violate the opportunities for the other women swimmers, but we also know that that's a lie. It's not true. And I think there's value in making sure our society is rooted in truth and not in social fads.
I wholeheartedly agree with every word Ron DeSantis just said. I think he is spot on with his criticisms and his observations of the LGBTQ community. But I think that the commercial that they released and that he endorsed is unnecessarily divisive. And I think it's going to Ron DeSantis is losing any possible chances of coming out looking like a nice guy, like a good guy. I don't know if that's even possible for him to regain a mantle or even gain a mantle of being a nice guy, because the commercial is just that bad. And I will if anybody wants to join us in the chat room, I'll show the video in the chat room here in just a second if you want to be able to see that. But it's obnoxious. It's immature. It is, in fact, the Peaky Blinders is a TV show that's on. Is that on HBO?
I think it was originally a British show, and Netflix picked it up.
Okay, so it's on Netflix, and it stars. I can never say that guy's name right.
Cillian Murphy is his name.
It's not Cillian Murphy.
It could be Cillian Murphy.
Anyhow,
but I feel more confident saying Cillian Murphy.
Okay, that's fine. And so the show Peaky Blinders has now come after Ron DeSantis for using video clips from Peaky Blinders of Cillian Murphy. I think Killian. I don't know. We'll look that one up. Anyhow, so join the chat group here on the WDBO Facebook page, and I will air that for you coming up in just a moment, so you can get a better idea if you can see that. And again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about that and whether or not we should test the military for cannabis.
They should still do testing for cannabis, but not disqualify you as long as it's like alcohol. When you're on duty, you don't test positive. When you're off duty, you can.
Yeah, and I guess in that case, people would just be, military members would just be subject to random drug testing. I would think. I would kind of think they would be in that scenario already of being subject to random drug testing. Who knows? Do you guys know if they do random drug testing in the military? If anybody knows, you can hit me up at 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app. You can... I've got a couple more open mics here. A lot of people want to talk about the cocaine that was found in the White House.
Okay. I know who brought the cocaine to the White House.
Oh, this is good. This guy knows who brought the cocaine to the White House. I don't know. He must have an inside source of the White House or something. That's cool.
I know that person. That person's name is Hunter Biden.
Hunter Biden.
Son of the president.
Son of the president.
He was the one who brought that cocaine into the White House, some way, somehow. And you should ask him why he did it.
I appreciate your confidence, sir, but we don't know that. Certainly, it's easy to think that. I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, yeah, Hunter left his coke at the White House. But we don't actually know that, and... it is plausible that there are other people besides Hunter Biden in this world that do cocaine. I'm told that it's a popular drug. I'm told that a lot of people really dig on their cocaine. It's never been my thing. I've never even seen cocaine, but there it is.
All you got to do is get a hold of Joe Biden, tell him to let Hunter come over, and you got something for him. When he comes over, ask him if that powder stuff is his. He says, yeah, there's your answer. No more questions.
And I'm sure Hunter will be honest about that. And I'm sure if he said yes to Joe Biden, that President Biden would then directly communicate to the rest of the United States, hey, we've identified the source of the cocaine. We now know that it's my son, Hunter Biden's cocaine. I don't see that happening either. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. And again, check out that video, the anti-LGBTQ, anti-Donald Trump video that is in the WDBO app right now. We'll continue talking about that coming up straight ahead.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk.
I'm I'm Joe Kelley. You're listening to the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. We were talking about a couple of different topics here, including Ron DeSantis with his anti-Trump, anti-LGBTQ commercial that he is doubling down on, endorsing it.
I want to see the ad. What's the chat room? Where do we find the chat room? I'm so lost.
Oh, so the chat room is on the WDBO Facebook page. We live video stream the Joe Kelley Show every night. There's 4 of us right now on the screen. There's me, Laurel, Paul Cross, and Josh McCarthy, who just ducked down out of the screen. But if you want to join the chat room, we've got a bunch of lovely people that are always chatting with us in the chat room. And we have a lot of fun conversations on the side. We actually kind of do a separate show in the chat room some days. So if you ever want to check it out, just go to the WDBO Facebook page, and you will be able to check out the chat room there. Thank you for asking. Let's go to Brian and Coco joining us at 844-580-WDBO. Hey, Brian, you're on the Joe Kelley Show. How are you?
Hi, Joe. I've been listening to you for quite a while, and I'm pretty good. I'm driving a rig in Ohio. But I'm from Cocoa, and I just wanted to comment on the drug testing in the military. I'm against it because I'm against them not drug testing because you have to be on duty basically 24/7. I was in the Army, and you have to be able to at any time. They may bug you out in the middle of the night. So if you're high, that stuff doesn't just go away in 2 seconds. It's in your bloodstream. Just I don't think that they need to be able to smoke while they're in the military.
Brian, and my job certainly does not compare to the gravity of a serviceman or woman. But I feel the same way about my job in that I'm pretty much on call 24 hours a day as the news director and a talk radio host. I mean, if something happens in this world and I suddenly get the call saying, oh, my gosh, Joe, there's a bomb that just went off. We need you to be on the radio in 20 minutes. I mean, I can't be high, drunk, wasted. I mean, you've got to be able to have a clear mind and be able to make decisions straight away. And I totally understand where you're coming from.
Exactly.
Brian, thank you so much. I appreciate your service. Thank you so much for calling us here tonight. 844-580-WDBO. Use the open mic and the WDBO app. Always check out the podcast, the Joe Kelley Show podcast. You'll find it wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, even in the WDBO app. Just click the on-demand button. I'm Joe Kelley. We'll continue the Joe Kelley Show straight ahead here on WDBO.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Talk and discussion on the latest breaking national news.
Crude oil prices continue to fall.
Local news.
You're not going to have Disney have its own government in Central Florida.
And stories that matter to you. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let your voice be heard on the Joe Kelley Show.
All right, Somebody created an AI ad for Joe Biden for president, and it is really dark Biden. It's vulgar and it is interesting. And honestly, I think a lot of people, a lot of Democrats at least, upon hearing this AI-generated Biden ad, might be more inclined to support Joe Biden because it's kind of awesome. But I'll have it for you in just a couple of minutes, so stay right here, and I'll have it for you coming up in a moment. All right, we're talking about whether or not Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz wants to end cannabis testing for the U.S. military. We're talking about Ron DeSantis and this bizarre LGBTQ anti-Trump ad that he has released. I think the message is on point. I think the marketing is a disaster. It's a weird, juvenile, 4chan, 13-year-old boy incel commercial. It's just weird and bad.
Hey, Joe, I'm a Vietnam veteran, and one of the biggest nightmares infantry officers and NCOs had was having a artillery forward observer high on some illegal substance. That could be devastating to an infantry unit out on the front line.
I would imagine so. I know that we give our pilots basically speed, and we give the Air Force pilots and Navy aviators. I mean, we give them what do they call them, like go pills, but they're typically there's a prescription called Provigil, which is short. It's short for promotes vigilance, and it is supposed to keep you mentally awake and mentally alert while not affecting you physically. So I know that there have been experimentations, and the Germans were all methed up during World War II, which allowed them to fight 24 hours a day. So some drugs have been utilized on the combat field before, but marijuana certainly is not going to be the kind of drug that is going to cause a fighting soldier to fight harder. It's just not going to happen. They'll be all chilled out and everything else.
Joe, it saddens me that the first house, the Powder House, the White House, it truly saddens me that there's news about this coming out. It saddens me. They're hedonists, aren't they? I mean, it could be hunters. It could be someone else's. It's in the White... How much more do we have to take for Christmas' sake?
For Christmas' sake. I don't know. You clearly sound frustrated. The bottom line is there's no way we'll ever find out whose cocaine it was. They're never going to reveal it. I'd be willing to bet that they already know whose cocaine it was. I'd be willing to bet they've already seen the closed-circuit TV. They've got cameras in every room there in the White House. I would be willing to bet they've already done the fingerprints on the baggie, on the dime bag, and I bet they already know who it is, and I bet it'll never, ever, ever see the light of day.
This is the guy, again, that served 14 years in the Marine Corps. It's Hoorah.
Hoorah.
And yes, they do random drug testing, but the thing is with random drug testing, it doesn't specify when the drug was taken. As long as you're not stupid enough to be stupid while you're on drugs and get in trouble, go right ahead. But at the same time, alcohol, you can smell the breath the next morning. It doesn't mean that they're drunk. They just drank too much. It's a win-win, lose-lose. It's very touchy subject.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Hey, Joe. I was curious about yesterday when you were telling the story about cleaning out those oil tankers with your brother.
Right.
I think you said you're around 15.
Yes.
Around the same age that you started your radio career.
Yeah.
And, but I was wondering if, God forbid, anything happened to your brother, did he go through the same kind of treatments that you had to take after doing that kind of work?
Yeah, that's such a thoughtful question. Thanks for asking that. My brother has always been the picture of health. My brother, for I swear, for like the first 40 or 50 years of his life, never even had a cavity, which blew my mind. And my brother does not seem to have the same health effects that I do from that. I think he's got a heartier constitution than I do. And coincidentally, my brother's name is Steve, and the position is a stevedore. So he was Steve the stevedore. It is now 5:42. You're listening to The Joe Kelley Show here on WDBO.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
Paul Cross joins us as he's checking that drive for us here on a Thursday afternoon. Hello, PC.
Hey there, Joe. I-4 westbound is slow through Lake Mary and then Parr Street onto the 408 eastbound. There's still clearing a crash there, I-4 eastbound at Lee. It looks like it's on the right shoulder. And, of course, the crash on OBT south of 451. They're still working there. This report sponsored by Wendy's Late Night, open until midnight or later. Wendy's drive-thru is open until midnight or later for all your late-night cravings. So give in to what you want. Order a Baconator even later. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
All right, you're going to love this. Now, listen up. Now, the Daily Show... The Daily Show on Comedy Central used artificial intelligence to create a Joe Biden television commercial. And it is obscene. It's foul. I believe we have done a pretty good job of bleeping out all of the curse words that are in this commercial. But take a listen. This is artificial intelligence, but it's going to sound just like Joe Biden.
Look at these jokers. No, I'm serious. Look at these birds. We can't let them back in, smearing on the walls of democracy. Now, hey, I know I'm old as f***. I get it, America. I'm tired. I'm slowing down. I make Al Pacino look like Timothy Chalamet. I know I wasn't your first choice in 2020. Hell, I wasn't my first choice. You think I like getting a syringe of B12 plunged in my ass every morning just to stay alert enough to run this country? No. But these are the cards we're dealt, Jack. I'm going to be so hopped up on goofballs and cocaine, I'm going to make Don Jr. look normal. Reality is I can't step down and let who? Kamala run? Have you seen her as Veep? Get the out of here. My priorities in 2024. Number one is I'm not the guy who sent a violent clown brigade to kill Nancy Pelosi. So all I can say is a vote for me is a vote for 4 more years of holding fascism at bay. Or as long as this ticker keeps pumping a minimal amount of blood for consciousness. And if you can't tell this is an AI-generated voice, then lots of luck in your senior year. Whatever the that means.
Is that not scary as can be to think that's how good AI is? I mean, there is no doubt that everybody would have thought that's Joe Biden. But that is artificially created Joe Biden. I honestly think we could play that 1-minute commercial for the whole 2 hours, just back to back. We could put it on a loop, and our ratings would go through the roof. I mean, that is such an amazing commercial that AI generates. I want to hear it again.
Look at these jokers. No, I'm serious. Look at these birds. We can't let them back in, smearing on the walls of democracy. Now, hey, I know I'm old as I get it, America. I'm tired. I'm slowing down. I make Al Pacino look like Timothy Chalamet. I know I wasn't your first choice in 2020. Hell, I wasn't my first choice. You think I like getting a syringe of B12 plunged in my ass every morning just to stay alert enough to run this country? No. But these are the cards we're dealt, Jack. I'm going to be so hopped up on goofballs and cocaine, I'm going to make Don Jr. look normal. Reality is I can't step down and let who? Kamala run? Have you seen her as Veep? Get the out of here. My priorities in 2024. Number one is I'm not the guy who sent a violent clown brigade to kill Nancy Pelosi. So all I can say is a vote for me is a vote for 4 more years of holding fascism at bay. Or as long as this ticker keeps pumping a minimal amount of blood for consciousness. And if you can't tell this is an AI-generated voice, then lots of luck in your senior year. Whatever the that means.
So Karen in the chat room writes, yeah, that's not Joe Biden because I can understand every word he's saying. Yeah. That's kind of true. I get that. That makes some sense there.
Hey, Joe, I think it was a big misstep on DeSantis's part. There's a lot of Republicans that also happen to be gay, and I don't think most Republicans do have issue with gay people. I think maybe more so with the trans community, but it's not a hatred. It's just a disagreement or an unwillingness to cave to their ideology.
I think that is such an exceptionally well-made point. You're absolutely right. And I have plenty of gay friends, and they have told me in the past that they feel like they're getting railroaded by the trans community, that gay people are getting lumped in with the trans community, and it is frustrating for many of them. And I completely agree with you. I think there's a huge difference between simply being gay and out advocating being a cross-dresser, being a someone who performs in front of children. I mean, there's a world of difference there. I don't know any Republicans that just hate gay people. They may not understand gay people. They may not know any gay people or think they know any gay people. But I don't think that they hate gay people. And it's such a clear distinction that these are two different conversations about the transgender community. I mean, that is a community where a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives, and a lot of just normal Americans look at that and say, that's a mental health crisis. I mean, they're struggling through a mental health crisis, and something needs to be done about the mental health crisis of it all.
Hey, Joe, I have to admit, it was me. I went to make a drop, and I saw the dogs, and I got scared, and I dropped it in the box and just ran out of there.
Do I know what that is a reference to? Oh, so he's admitting to the cocaine. Got it. Okay. All right. Now I understand. I thought he was being serious about something. All right. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. Make sure you download that WDBO app today. You can find it in your Google Play or the App Store. Download it today. All kinds of great stuff in there that you can check out. My name is Joe Kelley. We'll continue with more of your comments coming up straight ahead.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. In-depth segments on topics that matter to Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and all of Central Florida. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
I love your show every night. You're doing great, bud.
My name is Joe Kelley. Thank you so much for joining us here for the Joe Kelley Show. We got a lot of topics we're talking about right now, not the least of which is the anti-LGBTQ, anti-Donald Trump ad that a third-party PAC, the DeSantis War Room, has released, but Ron DeSantis has fully endorsed it. Let's go to Deltona. Chris is joining us here on the Joe Kelley Show. Hello, Chris. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah. So I work with someone who is gay, and he's a respectable man. Like he's a man. You know what I mean?
I do.
And he said that he came to me the other day and said, I can't believe this Bud Light stocks are going so terrible with this Dylan Mulvaney thing. And I'm like, well, why? I'm just, and he's like, well, I don't agree with it because that is ungodly. You know what I mean? Like, so there's something, like, it's not ungodly that he's trying to be a transgender. And I was just taken away. I was like, all right, I don't support
so
LGBTQ.
So you're
I'm just saying,
you're saying that this gay friend of yours or coworker of yours is troubled by the trans movement?
Yes, exactly. And he's a surgeon. Like, he's like man, woman. Like, that's,
yeah. So
that's
he understands the difference, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we hadn't had that conversation before, and I was afraid to approach it.
Oh, I would imagine so.
He blew me away. I was like, wow. You know, and I've never had any issues or whatever. Like, I have gay friends, whatever, but they know I try to live my life, you know, in the way God or Jesus did.
Right.
So,
you know, and Jesus didn't just hang out with religious leaders. In fact, Jesus hung out with prostitutes and destitutes and people who were sick and people who were troubled. Even the disciples. The disciples were terribly flawed human beings. They were terribly broken human beings. Yeah. So. Yes, that's what we're supposed to do as Christians is find people, you know, that are broken and help shine the light into the darkness for them. In fact, that is the prayer that my wife and I say together every single morning before we separate, before I leave for work, is that we pray that we're able to shine the light into the darkness. And we try that every single day. Thank you so much, Chris. I'm glad you called. Great job. 844-580-WDBO.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Triple Team Traffic.
Got a crash I-4 westbound before 536 with the right lane block. Traffic very heavy past Sand Lake Road. Another crash on the Turnpike southbound at the 528. Delays started I-4, and then a crash in Osceola County, 535 southbound at Osceola Parkway, blocking the right lane. Having tech issues? No worries. Visit Refresh Computers, Central Florida's budget computer store. Visit Refresh Computers in Longwood or at refreshcomputers.net. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. News, weather, traffic, all the things you want on your drive home. Plus, Joe Kelley being, well, Joe Kelley. Now, The Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's News and Talk, WDBO.
Now, I want to talk about salaries and pay and American workers. And when I talked about this, I don't know if it was last night or 2 nights ago, somebody had left an open mic, and it was kind of sarcastic. But the open mic was like, "Oh, Joe clearly is trying to hit up the station for more money." I'm not. When I bring up pay, when I bring up salaries, when I bring up the American economy, when I bring up the American worker, I'm not fighting for pay for me. I'm fighting for pay for you. I believe that most of our culture, of our society, most of Americans are underpaid, short the small percentage at the very top of the socioeconomic ladder. And you know, those who do well have done even better in the last 5-10 years. Those who do poorly have gone nowhere. And I think that is by design. I think that our nation is largely led by corporations and corrupt politicians who make sure they continue to line the pockets of the powerful while the lowly, unwashed masses of workers in America continue to be, I don't know if I can say this word on the radio, pooped upon by corporate America. I curbed my rudder mid-sentence. And it infuriates me to see how little the American worker gets paid compared to CEOs and so many others. And there's a new survey out now that concludes that the average American would need to earn $233,000 a year to feel financially secure. $233,000 a year. All right, Laurel, Josh, Paul, sound off. How much money would you think you need to earn each year to feel financially secure?
Well, let me just say that I am definitely not financially secure based on that point.
Right. Yes, I know.
Mean, I think that the price of everything is going up, but of course the wages are still curbed down there, and that I don't know when that can change, but I really don't know how much money I would need before I feel like, oh, I don't need to do much anymore. I'm making, $1 million a year and I feel fine.
I would feel at least $200,000 a year before I stop thinking about money every day of my life, right?
Josh, that sound about right to you?
You have guys like Elton John who are, they're millionaires, and they go bankrupt because when you make the money, you spend the money. If you're making $200,000 a year, you're not living in the 1-bedroom apartment anymore. You're going to upgrade, and so when you spend it, you end up needing and wanting more.
Well, and that goes back to Biggie Smalls, more money, more problems. I mean, the more money you make, the more problems you're going to have. The bigger your bills, the bigger your house, the more cars you have, the more cars that break down, the more houses that need to be repaired. Money is not always the solution for everybody. This survey also says it would take an income of $483,000 to feel rich. $483,000 a year just to feel rich. Now, here's the deal. The median earnings for full-time workers in the United States is $56,000 a year. So that's the median. That's the midway point between the lowest and the highest. And it's $56,000. And these are the same people who would say we need $233,000 a year to feel financially secure. And, it breaks my heart for all the people who day in and day out worry about how they're going to make ends meet. And most Americans, tragically, live paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. And if there is a single disruption in that process, if there's a single disruption either in your employment, or if you have a disruption because of an illness, if you have a disruption because of some sort of catastrophe, your house catches on fire, something like that, that is going to put you back to a point at which you may never recover. Now, this comes as a new poll says that 40% of Americans believe that winning the lottery is their best chance to buy a house. Winning 40%? think that they'll never own a house unless they can win the lottery, which also says that 40% is probably playing the lottery trying to win a house, which most would argue is a terrible investment strategy. Lotteries are a terrible investment strategy. Hang on. Are we sponsored by the Florida Lottery? Do we have a sponsorship by the Florida Lottery? I don't know if we do or not. Lotteries are an incredible investment. You should really invest all of your money into state lotteries because it's. But they even tell you that the odds of winning a lottery is what, like 1 in 529 million? It just blows my mind. I think nothing is going to change until there's a workers' revolution. I just believe that workers need to walk off the job and get the attention of corporate America and say, we've had it, this is enough. The working conditions are terrible. The pay is terrible. It's sad. It's sad that people have to work 2 or 3 jobs. And you know what? For all the people that are ripping to pieces people who cannot pay their student loans, you know, we got all these baby boomers are like, oh, you should pay back your student loans. You're the ones who did it, blah, 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 blah. First of all, it was the baby boomers who told all the younger generations that you have to go to college. And when the baby boomers went to college was dirt cheap. But college is so ludicrously expensive now, particularly if you finance it and you get tacked with all these finance charges, interest rates, and everything else like that. I mean, I think our economic system is fundamentally broken, which isn't to say that I don't support capitalism. I do support the free markets. But man, we've got people on the top of our markets that are doing so thoroughly well while people are dying to get to their next job. They're working 3-4 jobs and they still can't afford. And invariably you'll hear someone say, well, they shouldn't have big screen TVs then. They shouldn't have cell phones. They shouldn't have this, that, or the other. They shouldn't you should cut back on Starbucks, going to Starbucks every day. It's a $5 coffee every day. Are we sponsored by Starbucks? No? Okay, so yeah, go to Starbucks and waste your money at Starbucks. I just think that's pathetic, and I don't like how we make heroes out of billionaires and we vilify the poor. I would love to see that balance shift just a bit so that we don't vilify the poor and put on pedestal the billionaires. When I see that, there was a meme that went around a week or two ago that said that, you know, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg are, you know, going to get into the octagon and fight one another, and they're 2 of the world's richest men. Meanwhile, Dolly Parton has quietly for years been giving hundreds of millions of dollars away in donations to libraries and many others. I mean, you know, whether we are happy that we got vaccines or not, Dolly Parton spent millions on vaccine development. I mean, where was Jeff Bezos during that time? Where was Mark Zuckerberg during that time? Where was Warren Buffett during that time? Where was Elon Musk during that time? I think our economic system is broken. It makes me sick to see people having to work so very hard. I mean, when I was a kid, my father was the only one in the family that had a job. We had a nice house. We had 2 cars, and we could afford it. Dad could afford it on one job because houses were affordable, jobs paid pretty well, and things weren't terribly expensive. And this is not just because of the pandemic. I mean, we are really in the pooper right now, economically speaking, with our jobs. And again, I'm not campaigning for a pay increase for me. If I wanted a pay increase, I know who to go talk to. I am campaigning for a pay increase for you. I want to see you guys make more money. In fact, it's one of the reasons why, and my wife gets frustrated at times with me, because when I tip, to get back to a tipping conversation, when I tip, I generally tip, even if it's just adequate service. I mean, if it's terrible service, then I will tip accordingly. But even if it's just adequate, all the way up to spectacular service, I way over tip. And usually my rationale is they need the money more than I do. They need the money more than I do. And I know that the money that I have isn't mine in the first place. Everything that I have is God's. And I am just a steward of God's money and of God's things. And I try to be a good steward of my money and a good steward of my things. And I try to help other people, which is and with that I've been conned a couple times with some of the downtrodden in downtown Orlando that I have tried to help over the years. And that's on them. I mean, that's going to be on them. I am doing what is required of me, and that is helping my brothers and sisters to the best that I am able. And if they take that help from me and they squander it, that's on them. But I'm not going to stop helping people. I'm not going to stop. And I'm not going to stop fighting for people to earn more money. I wish there was a way that I had that power. I wish I could go to everybody's bosses and grab them around the neck and shake them violently and say, get your act together and start paying people better. Stop worrying about your profits and bottom lines at all times and start thinking about the people that make this nation great. The people that make this nation great are the workers. And you can't tell me how many of you are in this routine where every day you stay in bed until the absolute last minute until you have to get out of bed to go to work because you just don't want to get out of bed and start your day. And then you go to work, you work your tail off all day long, 8, 10, 12 hours at work, and then you go home and you've got about 2 hours for yourself. And in that 2 hours, you've got to feed your family, you got to take care of stuff at the house, and then you go to bed and you wake up and you start the whole thing all over again. That is your daily routine. I don't believe that we were meant to live like that. And, some of this goes back. Remember the conversation we had about the Amish a couple of weeks ago or a week or so ago? I think the Amish are onto something. Not that I want us to all go back to, prehistoric times, if you will. But I just think that humans aren't designed just to work and sleep, work and sleep, work and sleep. And I hate when I feel I'm in that pattern. And sometimes I do feel like I'm in that pattern. Sometimes I do stay in bed until it's time to get out of bed and go to work. Sometimes when I get home from work, I just want to go to bed and forget the day existed. I just think that is a terrible existence. Whether you believe in Jesus Christ or not, I don't think that's what God had in mind for us. To work all day long. I remember when they invented the cell phones, they said, with cell phones, your life is going to get so much easier now. Your life is going to be easier because you'll be able to make phone calls on the go. You know what? The invention of cell phones has not made life easier. It's made life harder because now we can be reached anywhere we go at any time. Your boss can call you, text you, email you at any time, anywhere, day or night. And it's frustrating. The cell phone did not make things easier. It has made things harder. I know I'm on a bit of a rant here. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. Share your thoughts with me right now, and we'll chat on the other side.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Connected to our community. Talk local issues and events with Joe Kelley. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let Joe know what interests you. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. We're just sharing some really terrible economic news for American workers. As a new study concludes that the average American worker would need to earn $233,000 a year just to feel financially secure. This is 40% of Americans believe that winning the lottery is their best and only chance to buy a house. Winning the lottery to buy a house. I mean, this is terrible. And I feel for so many American workers who struggle to make ends meet.
If you put your faith in Jesus Christ, you're not going to be worrying about all these financial problems. You always got to keep the faith. Keep it rolling.
And I agree with you. I like I said, the money doesn't belong to me in the first place. It's God's money, and I'm just I am just a steward of His money. And I tithe to my church, and I make sure that is well taken care of. And I have no doubt that as I go through difficult times, that and I don't want to get into a religious rant. I know that there's plenty of our listeners who don't share my faith. And I certainly don't want to ostracize those listeners, but I firmly believe that God does take care of us, and as long as we abide by His rules and be mindful of our sinful nature and that kind of stuff, I don't spend a lot of time worrying about money. Is the point for me? I do spend a lot of time worrying about money for other people. I don't know why. That is just, it's weird to say, but it is true. I worry about, the single mom working 3 jobs and then what the effect that's going to have on our kids. I mean, it's just terrible.
Joe, pre-pandemic, I could say $50K, $55K a year, and I could live comfortably. But now, I can't even. And I make close to that. And I'm struggling paycheck to paycheck again after working my butt off to get where I'm at.
Yeah, it is. It is awful, and it's not going to get better anytime soon.
We are governed by crooks, thieves, and people who take money under the table from lobbyists that represent all these huge corporations or billionaires, so they can continue passing laws to protect themselves and their assets, while the blue-collar people take it in the wahoo! We need somebody in office that can clean house. All these old politicians got to...
Yeah, the American middle class has been eviscerated. There isn't a middle class anymore. There is only low class and the billionaires, and that is pretty much about it.
Joe, I agree with you 100%. When my family and I moved here back in 1972, my father bought his house for $24,000. They gave you 30 years to pay on it. A fully loaded pickup truck now goes for as much as 6 figures now, and you got 8 years to pay on it. Makes no sense to me.
And this is why I don't want to hear any more baby boomers complaining about the younger generations complaining about money. Because the younger generations, when it comes to economic issues, have it far, far worse than the boomers did and previous generations did when college was affordable, when vehicles were affordable, when pay was good, when pay was comparable, when a CEO only made a little bit more than its highest paid worker. These days, it's all about, the investors, the stockholders, the CEOs, and everybody else.
Joe Kelley, the greatest guy in the world.
Oh, I don't know about that, but thank you very much.
Haha, Joe, that was funny. Starbucks will never sponsor you guys. You're conservative radio. Are you kidding me?
Oh, that's a very good point. You are certainly right about that. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. How many jobs are you working to make ends meet right now? Are you able to make ends meet right now? Do you think that you'll ever own a house if you don't currently own a house? How much money do you need to make to feel financially secure? 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Triple Team Traffic.
We have a crash. 429 southbound at 535. This one looks really bad. Multi-vehicle crash, and all of the lanes are blocked. They have it listed as northbound. I'm looking at the southbound lanes. Just if you are 429, you're being affected on both sides of this then at 535. Also a crash on Kirkman Road northbound at Conroy, and in Seminole County, State Road 46 westbound at Oregon Street. Have you had your second lunch yet? This report sponsored by Wendy's Late Night. Wendy's drive-thru is open until midnight or later for all your late-night cravings, so give in to what you want and order a Baconator even later. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's. From the WDBO, Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Insightful.
You tell the truth from your point of view.
Entertaining.
Man, that guy is a lot taller than he sounds on the radio.
And engaging.
When we hear you on the radio, it's a good thing.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
Paul, I'm curious. Does the copy actually say, have you had your second lunch today? Or are you mocking me when you say that?
No, I just want to remind you, Joe, that's just your thing. That's just for you. But I stopped saying your name in that, hey, Joe Kelley, because I didn't want them to think that, or anybody to think that you're endorsing this. So
I love that. Yeah, I did have my second lunch today. I have.
Okay, good.
Here's how I have 2 lunches a day and 1 dinner. That's it. I have 2 lunches and 1 dinner. I never eat a breakfast, so that's it. All right, 844-580-WDBO. Let's go to Debbie, who's joining us in Polk County. Hey, Debbie, you're on the Joe Kelley Show. How are you?
Great. How are you, Joe?
Very good, thanks.
Awesome. I just wanted to weigh in on what you were just saying about how times have changed and your dad was the sole breadwinner in your home and how difficult it is today. You're exactly right. When I bought my first home, I was 18. In the early 80s, 83, thereabouts, I paid $48,000 for my first house.
Wow.
And I think I was driving like a $5,000 car. My house now is significantly more. I am a single mom because the hands that I was dealt, the poor choices I made.
Yep.
And so I'm divorced. And my daughter just turned 19, so she's starting to be out on her own. Thank goodness I'm still getting child support because the poor choice that I made chose not to pay anything towards my daughter's expenses for 5 years. So he was in arrears, so he'll be paying for just a little bit more. But when that goes, I'm not quite certain exactly. I'm a little nervous how things will be going because I'm fortunate in that I work for a construction company and there's only 2 of us in the office. The other girl has 3 small children. She works oftentimes from home with the laptop, and we're constantly on the phone and emailing back and forth. If, somebody's sick, somebody can't go to school, there's no school, there's early release, there's always something going on. And I can work as many hours as I need to get everything done so that we can support the 40 guys that are out in the field. And so my budget and lifestyle is that, and I work basically 52 to 59 hours a week. So Monday through Friday, I do exactly what you do. I get up, I look at Facebook on my phone, look at some stuff, take a shower, drag my tired bones into work, and I'm here until 8, 8:30, 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And then I go home, feed the dog, let the dog out, and go to bed. And on Saturday and Sunday, I've got to maintain the pool, mow the grass, do the laundry, wash the car, anything else I need to get done. It's got to get done. Sometimes I'm just worn out. I mean,
how many times do you say to yourself, we're not, this is not what life is supposed to be like?
All the time, all the time. And then part of me thinks, suck it up and just work harder and get that mortgage paid off. I was able to change some things with my insurance. Thank goodness. The insurance industry is a nightmare. But I was able to change some things. So my payment went down a little bit on my monthly mortgage. And so I'm still paying the same so that I can pay that extra $200 or $300 a month towards the principal. And but I don't have a big fancy house. I don't live, it's a nice house, but my mortgage is only $160,000, and I pay less for my mortgage than some of my friends pay in rent. Difference is they have 2 incomes usually because there's 2 people in the house working. It's just me at my house. So if I don't work that 52, 53, 54, 56 hours a week, I kind of think, well, I could do this week, but next week I better get back on it.
And dare I ask, Debbie, are you putting any money away for retirement?
Barely. I mean,
so you're looking at working.
I'm 59, and I'll be working for a long damn time because, I got divorced from a lying, cheating sack of you-know-what, flaming dog poop.
Yeah.
When I was 50. And so, based on the advice of an attorney, stay put, punch every button you know how to punch, make him serve you with divorce papers. That took 2 years. He still didn't serve me. I found a house that was a good deal, not far from him because we shared a daughter who at the time was in elementary school. And by a series of really, really good deal on a house. But I've got a lot of sweat equity in it. I was doing some work for my employer who bought it to flip. And then my dad kind of helped me out, and he was like, listen, you got to get out of that other house. Let's do this. I know why you're not moving, because you don't want to rent. You've never rented. You bought your first house when you were 18. Why
That's
would
crazy.
you want to
Right.
be moving into a rental right now?
Yeah.
And I know why you're not, you can't buy a house, because you're feuding with him, and he's going to try to get whatever, he can, because he's a lazy bum. And we were already fighting over something else he had no skin in the game on. And, I was like, well, and what's interesting is that politically he's very conservative, but when it comes to himself, he's very liberal. And, the day that this all came about, he looked right at me and said, well, I'm entitled to half of that. I said, you're not entitled to anything. You didn't put anything in there. You can't have that. I bought that with the proceeds of the sale of my house that I bought when I was 18, 25 years before I even knew you. I was in the home stretch of having that puppy paid off. It was paying for itself and, and giving me $400 or $500 a month income. So no, no, you can't have this other property that I bought. It's just vacant land.
Debbie, I know it's so frustrating, and I can feel it in your voice. And
it is very frustrating.
Do you see a way out?
I thank you for your empathy. I thank you for your empathy to the plight of the single, hardworking folks out here. But I guess my way out is going to be, double down, dig hard. I drive a 2018 car. I had to, because the 2011 Volkswagen I was driving died one day, and my mechanic had it for 18 months. I was fortunate to be driving a spare truck from work, but I couldn't keep that truck in the field breaks. The guys need that. So we'd be trading off every day. I'd drive it to work. They'd take it out in the field. I'd be here until they came back with it, and I had to buy a car. My mechanic had that Volkswagen for 18 months. And I finally sold it to him for $5,000. I was like, listen, you give me $5,000. You can have the title of the car and take as much time as you want. I don't want it anymore. I'm done.
Well, Debbie, hang in there. Yeah. I know that this is tough.
Yeah.
If it's any help at all, just know that there are so many people that are facing the same struggle as you every single day. And it is heartbreaking. It's just not. It's not American. Yeah. It's not how it's supposed to be. No. And we need some sort of revolution to change that, so that workers have more And again, I'm not necessarily pro union. I'm certainly a capitalist. Yeah. I'm pro the free and fair markets, but there is just something wrong with our economy right now, where people get so buried and get so far behind that they can't catch up. Debbie, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure talking to you.
I thank you for your empathy to this. Yeah, I thank you for your empathy to the situation. I do make a decent wage, but if I didn't have those extra hours, I'd be punching out at 5 o'clock here and running to another job and working twice as much.
I bet.
Because I wouldn't be on overtime.
Yeah.
So I am thankful that I have my health. I'm thankful that I do have a house that I like and it's comfortable. I'm thankful that I bought a lovely pre-owned and pre-loved 2018 car that's very reliable and comfortable and gets me where I need to go, and that I have the work to do. I'm thankful for it every day. At least I have the work.
Debbie, thank you so much.
Do it. So
have a great night.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And I'll tell you, the part of this comes to mind today because I spent about an hour on the phone with my insurance broker today, as one of my twins, one of the Black & Decker, one of my 17-year-old twins is getting his first car, and I am looking at paying for his insurance on his car, and that's just another expense that I wasn't anticipating at this moment. And a lot of people can relate to that. Suddenly expenses pop up that you didn't plan on having to deal with at that moment. 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Now, the three big things you need to know.
Three. A set of 4th of July quadruplets are 2 days old today. Sarah Kahan of Los Angeles gave birth to the Quad Squad of 2 boys and 2 girls. The babies were delivered at 34 weeks and each weighed more than 4 pounds. Two. Warner Brothers is responding to its upcoming Barbie movie being banned in Vietnam. The country banned the movie over a map of the South China Sea that it said depicts the so-called 9-dash line that China uses to show its claim over a large part of the sea, including Vietnam. One. A recent recent limit on Twitter is affecting the way the National Weather Service monitors notifications from its weather spotters. The Weather Service office in Boulder, Colorado said it couldn't see all the tweets normally sent by spotters during Tuesday's severe weather because of an account viewing limit put in place by Twitter CEO Elon Musk.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Breaking news to lively debates, covering the issues that matter to you.
I make it a point to listen to Joe Kelley when I need to fully understand what's happening in the news.
Now, the Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's News and Talk, WDBO.
Well, we're talking about workers and how tough it is to be a worker in the United States today. And, you know, I always think about, we all like to say, oh, well, we're capitalists. We love capitalism. The reality is, unless you own business, unless you own the business, you're not a capitalist. You're a worker. I don't own the business I work for. I support capitalism, but I'm not a capitalist. I don't have any capital invested in anything. I don't have a business that I own. I am a worker. I am a drone bee, just like most everybody else is. We're drone bees working, and the workers of the United States are getting dealt a terrible, terrible hand. Pat is checking in from Lake Mary. Pat, thanks for hanging on. You're on the Joe Kelley Show.
Well, you're worth the wait.
Thank you.
So, I have a different philosophy. I am a baby boomer, and I'm retired, but let me tell you what. As long as I have a roof over my head, food to eat, gas to put in my car, and that's what God wants to give me, then I'm happy with it because, like my dad used to say every night, dear God, thank you for letting me pick daisies today instead of pushing them. So you just, you know, you got to look at the fact that, and I'm like you, God guides my life. He doesn't, it's not always pleasant, but it's what he gives me, and it's what I learned to live with. So,
yeah, you're absolutely right. Pat, thank you so much. I'm so glad you called. I appreciate that very much.
Really simple math here. My dad in 1980 bought his first house for $67,000. At the time, he was making about 1/3 of the purchase price of the home per year. Today, I won't tell you how much I make, but to buy a house, the same 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, I would have to make 9 times what I'm making now.
Yeah, it's absolute madness. Y'all, thanks for your phone calls tonight. Thank you to Josh and Paul and Laurel and everybody in our chat group. We sure love having everybody in that chat group. If you ever want to join us, just check it out on the WDBO Facebook page. It's a live video feed. Look for the Joe Kelley Show podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and Apple Podcasts and Spotify and the WDBO app and more. We love you guys. Have a great night, and we'll catch you back here tomorrow night, the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.